We celebrate the win. We post a photo, we say, I'm so grateful, and then wonder in private why we feel so hollow inside. And a lot of times we assume that there's something wrong with us. And maybe we think that we're ungrateful or broken or just incapable of actually enjoying the moment. But I'm here to tell you that that is what's happening. Welcome to What If It All Goes Right, the show for high achievers who are ready to stop fearing the worst and start stepping into their power. I'm your host, Angela Gargano, 6-time American Ninja Warrior, keynote speaker, peak performance coach, and former biochemist. Every episode, I'm going to give you the mindset shifts and practical tools to shake off the doubt, reignite your energy, and remember just how powerful you really are. Because it's time to stop fearing the worst and start asking, what if it all goes right? What if it's already going right? Welcome back to What If It All Goes Right. I'm your host, Angela Gargano, and you did it. You crossed the finish line. You hit the number. You got the promotion. You launched the business, finished the program, passed the certification, lost the weight. You did the thing you told yourself you were going to do. And now you're feeling nothing. You're not feeling happy. You're not feeling relieved. You're not proud. You're just kind of flat and empty and a little bit lost. Like someone turned the volume down on your life and you can't find the remote. And the thing is that nobody talks about this part. We celebrate the win. We post a photo, we say, I'm so grateful, and then wonder in private why we feel so hollow inside. And a lot of times we assume that there's something wrong with us. And maybe we think that we're ungrateful or broken or just incapable of actually enjoying the moment. But I'm here to tell you that that is what's happening. What you're in the middle of is something I like to call the identity hangover, and it lives in the hallway in between. And if you've ever hit a big goal and felt worse instead of better, this episode is going to give you a name for something you've been probably never had words for before. But before we dive in, if this podcast has been landing for you, I want to ask you to do something right now for me, please. Hit the follow on Apple or Spotify so you never miss an episode. And if you've got 60 seconds after that, please leave a review. It helps the podcast reach more high achievers who need it just like you. Okay, let's get into it. So the thing that nobody explains when they're handing you your trophy, and this has happened many times in my life when I've gotten the title of Miss Fitness America, when I got to the finish line for American Ninja Warrior, or when I got the straight A or graduated my college. And the thing is, we organize our entire life around a goal. Maybe it's a marathon, maybe it's a launch for the business or a weight loss goal. And it's a title, right? It's a thing you're working toward externally. And you don't just build a goal, you build an identity around the pursuit of that goal. And your schedule revolves around it. Your self-talk centers it, your sense of purpose, your worth, your daily structure. All of it gets scaffolded around becoming the person who achieves that physical thing, right? And then you achieve it and everything comes crashing down, which is weird, right? And that's what I like to call the identity hangover. It's not ingratitude, it's not weakness, it's not a character flaw, it's a neurological and psychological reality. Your brain has been running on a reward loop, chasing progress, achieving, chasing again. And when that loop suddenly stops, your nervous system doesn't know what to do with all this quiet, right? And psychologists actually call this the arrival fallacy, the gap between what we expect to feel after a major achievement and what we actually feel. And we assume that the destination will feel like all the commercials, right? But it really does, because the goal was never just the goal. It was the meaning that you attached to it, the version of yourself who you were becoming on the way there. And when you arrive, the becoming actually stops, right? And if you've spent months or years organizing your identity around becoming something, suddenly just being feels a bit disorienting. And here's the part I really need you to hear. Especially if you're someone who's always driven, always has a plan, always has a next thing lined up. The more driven you are, the more vulnerable you are to this. Because high achievers don't just set goals, they become their goals, right? The discipline, the sacrifice, the identity that forms around that pursuit, while that is a strategy, for a lot of us, it's how we know we're worthy. It's how we justify taking up space. It's how we measure our value. And I've done this after training for American Ninja Warrior, after hitting a cover shoot, after every big goal that I've chased. There's always a moment on the other side where I think, okay, like now what? And the version of me who was training, chasing, and grinding, where does she go? What do I do now? And the problem isn't the ambition of it, right? The problem is when ambition becomes the only thing holding your sense of self together. When who you are is inseparable for what you're pursuing. Achieving the thing can feel like you're losing yourself a bit, which is kind of crazy, right? So I want to walk with you through 5 flavors of the identity hangover because it shows up differently for different high achievers. And I want you to kind of think about like which one lands with you. The first one is the post-achievement slump. Now, when I used to do fitness competition, we called this something. So in fitness competitions, we actually used to call this the post-show blues. So you got there, you did the thing, it doesn't feel like you thought it would. You were on this like super high while you were there. And now after, you're sitting there waiting for the feelings to catch up, and it just hasn't. And life looks the same as before, maybe even better on paper, but inside you feel a bit deflated. And it's kind of wild. And what's crazy is after I hit getting actually, I want to say it was my first fitness competition I ever did. I remember it was a local competition. I wound up winning. And it was so amazing, the high of it, everyone around me. And then I hit the goal and I remember just going home and being like, oh. And it was like this weird feeling, which is kind of wild. It's not how I thought I would feel. And then even when I got the cover of the magazine, which was a thing that I wanted for years, I remember going to dinner by myself after shooting the cover and just sitting there, looking around. And it was like this weird slump of like, okay, wait, I did it. Like I hit the goal. So it's this weird down moment you have after this high and after all this adrenaline, which is super wild. But I just want to say, like, as we're going through these, like, these are completely normal. So some people call it the post-show blues, or you can call it the post-achievement slump. The second is the goalless void, right? There's nothing now on the horizon after this. Maybe there's no next thing, maybe you don't have a target, and instead of feeling free, you feel terrified. Like if you're not in the pursuit of something, you don't know who you are or what the point of anything is. And I see this all the time with all these achievements. I mean, even athletically for all the achievements that I've had, right? Going to the gym, working out, taking care of my health, doing all these things was all tied to getting to a competition and a certain end goal date. And then when that wasn't there anymore, I mean, just you're telling me in my head, I'm like, you're telling me you want me to go to the gym just to go to the gym and like stay healthy. And it didn't feel like a big enough goal. Like, although that is such a like important goal, right? We want to stay healthy so we can do these other things. But since I didn't have that physical thing I was reaching for, it felt like this weird, like, well, like I don't have to go. Like I could go, but like, what's the point? Like, what am I working fully for? So it's this weird piece where you don't like have a goal. And again, in my keynotes, I like to call this the hallway in between. You know, the hallway in between can be the rock bottom moment to this comeback moment. And the in between is where we are right now. And that like, what are we doing? I don't see progress. I don't know what's happening. Or it also could be from achieving the goal. You achieve the thing and now you're in the in-between of like, what's next, which I think is really powerful to understand. The third is the lost role. The kids left for college, the business sold, the relationship ended, the season finished, and your life was organized around that role, and now that role is gone. So who are you without it? And wow, the amount of times that I've seen this in a couple different areas. One, you know, my family, like my mom and my dad both retired, and my mom was a teacher her whole life. She's an incredible teacher. And you could tell when she retired, not having that role even though she was working towards retirement and so excited for retirement, felt weird. Like, what? Like, what? Like, who am I now? And I think that's pretty wild. And even some of my other friends who were young, so successful, people I look up to who sold their business for millions of dollars, they are literally set for life. But they almost feel weird because they don't have that role of being that business owner now that has passed. And I think it's really important to talk about these middle moments because we don't really. Because online right now you're seeing instant gratification. But I saw a quote the other day on somebody like, no, like most of life is just like this, and most of life is ordinary, and most of life is in the in-between, but people just are not showing it. So I love showing to you what truly the in-between moments look like, which is stuff like this. The fourth is grief, right? And this one's sneaky. You succeeded at something you no longer want. You built the career, you hit the goal, you earned the title, and realize somewhere along the way that you don't actually want this anymore. But now you're grieving the identity you built around something that no longer fits. And let me tell you, I've gone through this grief, and people don't tell you about the grief. For me personally, a few different grief moments, biochemist, realizing I didn't want to be a biochemist, the grief of letting that go, that identity of the biochemist go, and now opening up the gym. Opened up the gym. I was like, awesome, love this, whatever, all fitness, rah, rah, rah. Then I'm like, oh my goodness, I don't want this. Oof, grief, had to let go of the gym and grieve that section of the gym, of the gym owner identity that I had. Boom, go online fitness, going hard on it. Crazy, all fitness, this, Instagram, da da da. Then being like, oh man, I'm so happy I built this team and company, and we still have the pull-up program and it runs and I have an amazing team, right? But then grieving the idea that I'm no longer the fitness instructor, I am now the CEO, I am the thought leader. So letting that behind, like leaving that behind and moving forward, and now stepping into my CEO thought leader. And I'm showing you this because if I look at it, like this is going to happen time and time again. This is not just something that maybe happens once. You might grieve different sections of your life. That is the beauty of these hallway in-betweens. And the fifth is physical identity loss. So you trained hard, you were the strong one, the athletic one, and then injury, illness, hormones, or a life change in your relationship in your body. The identity you built around how you perform physically is suddenly in question. So I want you to think about those five. Do any of those land for you? Because if they do, I want you to know that you are not behind, you are not broken, you're just in the in-between. The hallway in between. And here's where it gets real. When the identity hangover hits, most of us do everything we can to not feel it, right? We immediately start hunting for the next goal. We throw ourselves back into the busyness to avoid it. We say yes to everything so we can stay distracted. We scroll, we numb, we perform gratitude on social media while feeling super hollow in private. We fill the silence before we've had a chance to hear what it is saying. Sound familiar? And I see this all the time with the achievers and leaders that I coach. And I've done this too, because the alternative is sitting in the gap, letting yourself not know. And that feels really uncomfortable, especially for someone whose whole identity is built around having a plan. But the truth is that discomfort that you're avoiding, that is not a warning sign. That's the doorway, right? That's the identity hangover. The identity hangover isn't a problem to solve. It's a signal that you've outgrown the container your old identity lived in. And that's actually really good news, right? You want to think about a snake shedding its skin. The old skin isn't bad. It served the snake perfectly. It fit exactly right for a while, but the snake grows and eventually the skin becomes a limitation. And the shedding isn't a crisis, it's proof of growth. But in that in-between moment before the new skin is fully formed, the snake is vulnerable, raw, feels exposed. That is the identity hangover. You haven't lost yourself, you've grown a version of yourself. You've outgrown a version of yourself. And right now, you're in the tender, uncomfortable space between who you were and who you're becoming next. And that space is not empty, it's fertile. It might be the most important ground you ever stand in. If you can resist the urge to immediately fill it, the goal was never the destination. It never is. The goal was the vehicle. It, it got you here. But here is not the end of the story. It's actually the beginning of the most intentional chapter. If you're willing to ask the right questions, not what's next, but who do I want to be now that I am here? Okay, so let's get into what you actually do with this. The first thing I want you to do is to separate your identity from your achievement. Obviously, easier said than done. So ask yourself honestly, who are you when no one is watching and nothing is at stake? Not the title, not the goal, not the role, just you. What do you value? How do you want to feel on a random Tuesday? And what kind of person shows up in these small, quiet moments of your life? If the question feels hard to answer, that's an important information, right? We can use that. It means your identity has been outsourced to external metrics. And that work now is to bring it back home. The second thing is what I like to call, who am I without this reflection? So take out a piece of paper and finish this sentence without the goal, without the rule, without the title. I am. Don't filter it. Don't perform it. Let's be honest. Uncomfortable answers are the most useful ones. This isn't about tearing yourself down. It's about getting clear on where your sense of self actually is coming from. So you can consciously choose something more solid to build on. Third, and this is a big one. Start building your identity on values and character instead of goals and titles. So here's the distinction. Goals are the things you do. Values are the things you are. A goal has an end. A value doesn't. Instead of I am a marathoner, try I am someone who shows up to do hard things. Instead of I am a CEO, try I'm a leader who builds people up. Instead of I am the fit one, try I'm someone who respects and takes care of her body. See the difference? One version of you exists only as long as the achievement exists. The other version of you is the permanent one. That's the identity worth building. And fourth thing is, learn to sit in the gap without immediately filling it. I know this one is hard, but give yourself a window, even if it's just a week or two, where you don't rush to declare what's next, where you let yourself not know, where you practice being instead of becoming. Journal, walk, breathe, ask yourself, what do you actually want? Not what you think you should want next. What sounds exciting because it genuinely excites you, not because it will prove something. The gap isn't empty, it's filled with information. You just have to be quiet enough to sit with it. Someone had told me once before, like, you just need to spend a couple of days silently with yourself. And the answers are all within us. They are, but sometimes we need that little pause. So here's what I want you to take away from today. The identity hangover isn't a sign that something went wrong. It's a sign that something went right. You achieved something significant enough to reorganize your life around, and now your life is asking you to reorganize again and to something deeper, something more intentional, something that doesn't disappear when the goal is reached. You are not your goals. You are not your titles. You are not the version of yourself that's always in pursuit of the next thing. You are the achiever and the high achiever and a woman and a human being underneath all that. The one who values with character, with a particular way of moving through the world that belongs entirely to you. And she doesn't need a goal to justify her existence. The next chapter isn't about finding a new goal fast enough to fill that void. It's about getting to know her, the woman on the other side of the achievement, and deciding with intention who she wants to become next. Not out of pressure, not out of fear, but out of choice, out of design. So if you're in the identity hangover right now, I want you to hear this. You are not behind, you're not broken, you're not ungrateful, you're in the in-between. And the in-between, as uncomfortable as it feels, is exactly where transformation lives and growth happens. The question isn't what's next. The question is, who do you want to be now that you're here? So answer that. Answer that one, and everything else will follow. Now, before you go, if this episode hit home, send it to one woman or one achiever in your life who needs a name for what she's feeling right now. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is let someone know they're not alone in it. And of course, I'll see you in the next episode. And remember, the goal was never the finish line. It was always the woman you were becoming on the way there. So don't lose her now that you've arrived. And ask yourself, what if it all goes right? What if it's already going right?